Teachers, what was the best smart-ass response from a student you have heard? I'd been teaching high school physics for 15 years when Terry Wilson walked into my classroom. He was the type of kid who'd correct other teachers' grammar and argue about everything. Most teachers hated him, but I saw something different. A brilliant mind trapped in a system that bored him to tears. One day, during a lesson about gravity, I noticed Terry wasn't paying attention. Instead, he was building some kind of contraption with rubber bands and paper clips. I did what any teacher would do. I called him out in front of everyone. Since you clearly know this material so well that you don't need to listen, why don't you come teach the class about gravitational acceleration? I said, expecting him to shrink back into his seat. But Terry just smiled, grabbed his makeshift contraption, and walked to the front. Without saying a word, he attached it to my coffee mug, my favorite one that said "World's Okayest Teacher," and launched it straight up to the ceiling. The class gasped. The mug hung there, suspended by his rubber band creation, slowly rotating. Terry pulled out his phone, started a timer, and yanked a small string. The mug dropped. He caught it perfectly, stopped the timer, and turned to the whiteboard. The next 2 minutes, this 16-year-old kid derived the gravitational constant using nothing but the height of our classroom ceiling and the time it took my mug to fall. The class sat there stunned. Even I couldn't speak. Then Terry handed me back my mug and said, "And that's why I wasn't taking notes, Mr. Parker. Sometimes you need to drop things to understand how they fall." That smart-ass response should have earned him detention. Instead, it earned him a spot in our advanced placement program. But Terry wasn't done surprising us. 2 weeks later, during our electricity unit, he rigged all the classroom lights to flash in sync with our principal's morning announcements. When she said, "Good morning," the lights dimmed. When she mentioned detention, they turned red. By the time she got to lunch menu, the entire school was watching our classroom's light show. The principal stormed into our classroom, demanding to know who was responsible. Before Terry could speak up, I stepped in. "It's part of our electricity demonstration, Mrs. Walsh. We're showing how sound waves can be converted to light patterns. In fact, why don't you come see what happens when you say 'Go Tigers' into the microphone?" She left with a smile, thinking she'd just witnessed innovative teaching. That afternoon, Terry stayed after class to dismantle his setup. I asked him why he did it. "The announcements are boring," he said, coiling up wires. "Nobody listens because there's nothing to look at. Now they'll remember." He wasn't wrong. Attendance at school events shot up 40% that semester. Kids actually started paying attention to announcements. The principal even asked if we could make the light show permanent. By year's end, Terry had turned my classroom into what he called an interactive learning space. Random desk drawers would open when you solved physics problems correctly. The whiteboard markers changed colors based on whether your equations were balanced. Even the classroom door would only open if you could state Newton's third law. During his final exam, I caught Terry staring at the ceiling, ignoring the test completely. Before I could say anything, he raised his hand. "Mr. Parker, question 4 is wrong," he announced to the silent classroom. "You can't have a frictionless pulley in real life. The answer would violate the second law of thermodynamics." I checked my answer key. He was right. Again. At graduation, Terry gave me a small box. Inside was a miniature version of his original gravity demonstrator, perfectly sized for my desk. The note attached read, "For when you need to drop some knowledge. Thanks for letting me break the rules to prove them." That device still sits on my desk today.